Joining us now is one of the hundreds upon hundreds of artists that you will see at this year's Ann Arbor Art Fair. Actually, two of them, both Jen and Kenneth Kudulis, are scenic painters and digital artists joining us on today's edition of the Megacast as they get ready to come into town in late July for the Ann Arbor Art Fair. Jen, Kenny, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Good morning.
Yeah, glad to have you on. So what you do is you're a digital artist and a scenic painter, but a lot of these paintings, I understand, you're creating through digital means. So tell us about your art and how you're creating what we're going to see with the two of you in Ann Arbor in July.
Yeah, well, the body work behind me is created digitally, so it's all drawn by hand on the screen of my iPad. So it's just thousands of marks, like dozens of layers, and it's creating something that's really super colorful and it's vibrant and it's fun. But yeah, it's all created digitally. I have a background in painting, like you said, the scenic art, and I did that forever. Actually, we both have a background in theater, but I did the scenic art, she did the acting. But yeah, that's what I do.
So you both have a background in the arts, particularly in the performing arts. So tell us about your journey to then getting into more of the physical art like we're seeing now, or digital art as you're creating, and we'll see at the Ann Arbor Art Fair.
Yeah, go ahead, babe.
The journey's been so long since we started to where we are now. It's kind of hard to remember, honestly.
I think this is year 17.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, we started I started hustling on the streets, actually, both of us. Mm-hmm. We set up down in Union Square and on the High Line, various parts all over New York City, setting up my little cart, slinging my art. That's I decided not to go to SCAD, Spanish School of Art and Design, to get my MFA. I decided, hey, let's hustle on the street and figure this out. So we did that for 5 or 6 years, both of us.
Yeah, I think when you talk to your customers directly, I think that you can learn a lot, what they like, you'll learn what they don't like, and then also really just how to talk to people about your artwork, which is really, we spend a lot of time in the studio behind the scenes, sort of prepping for these shows for months on end. And, it's really important that we kind of convey what we have been working on this whole time to people there in the booth, and also like just letting them experience it as well, making sure that they are connecting with something. And
Please go ahead. Sorry.
I would say just making sure that they're just connecting with the work in general, and basically just making sure that we can facilitate that.
With your backgrounds in theater production and in acting and understanding how to build an audience, how to interact with an audience, and then also that history of, as you said, Kenny, hustling on the streets of New York initially in this part of your careers as artists, how does that then add into the dynamic that you often have at these art shows, and then provide even further inspiration or further motivation for creating art as you're going to art shows all over the country?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. So the journey in between, we get to go to, I'm influenced by the national parks and hiking and getting outside. But it's also, you find cool places in and around the cities we, explore, because people give us the heads up. So like going to Ann Arbor, we'll meet people, hey, go check out this spot, go check out this spot. It's awesome. And that happens in every city. People are great that way. And it just further fuels our need to see everything.
Yeah, I think once we started traveling, we got outside of New York. New York is it's amazing because there's a whole bunch of stuff there. But then once you get out of it, then you start to see and experience different things, and those things ultimately influence your daily life, which ultimately influences your artwork as well. So definitely where we started and where we are now has definitely been a big growth for sure.
What are some other places that you draw inspiration from your pieces from? How does your life outside of being an artist influence your life as an artist?
Oh,
they're one and the
same. Yeah,
there's no separation.
Yeah, I mean, I could just be walking down the street with my dogs and see a cardinal fly or something. I was like, oh, that'd be cool. Let's do a drawing of there. A couple years back, we went to South Africa, and that's where my mind was exploded, because we went on safari and saw all these amazing animals. And it's just it's different than seeing them in the zoo. They're out there doing their thing in real life, and it's like, hey, if I step out of this car, this thing's gonna take my arm off. There's something about a series of respect there, and I don't know, was the beginning of all the work I'm doing now, was doing that, seeing that.
I think also like a lot of people are like, where does it come from or how long does it take? And I think that some things, sure, you could see something or experience something, such as music or, going out and going to an art show, for instance, and you might be inspired instantly. But for a lot of times, for me, it's really something that takes months of kind of just like sitting on something and then layers of like seeing other things and experiencing things. And then finally, something that's kind of been like rolling around in my head will kind of, it's like puzzle pieces kind of going together. And then you're like, oh, I see it now. And then it's like, oh, well, why am I seeing this? It's like, well, you can see all these individual places that you pulled experience from. It's sort of like if you like, say, have like a crazy dream and you're like, why was I riding a bicycle with a walrus? Maybe you saw a walrus on an advertisement a month ago, and then maybe you were thinking about riding a bicycle like 2 weeks ago. Like ultimately, it kind of just, it pops up in your head in really weird times sometimes.
You can find more information about Jen and Kenny's art by visiting their website, alongthelines.art. Alongthelines.art. That also is their social media handle on Instagram, instagram.com/alongthelines.art, to find even more information about their art and look at some of the collection that you'll see in Ann Arbor with Jen and Kenny at this year's Ann Arbor Art Fair, beginning Thursday, July 20th and running through Saturday, July 22nd, with more information on the Ann Arbor Art Fair.com. Kenny, Jen, knowing some digital artists myself, I have a bit of familiarity with some of the process that they go through to create these digital paintings. But for those that aren't familiar with this form of painting, how is it similar to a traditional painting, given that, as we can clearly see from the image behind you, or you'll be able to see on the image behind them on civiccentertv.com later on today, there is a lot of detail that goes into this still.
Yeah, 100%. I attack it and create it the same way you would layer up like a watercolor and acrylic. Like you start the same way you use the blank white canvas, you start with a blank white screen. And you have to sit there and sketch it, get your shape and what your composition is going to be. So say the hummingbirds behind me, I draw the hummingbirds first. All right, great. I get the pattern there. And then what world are they going to live in? So I pick out the flora, the flowers, the hibiscus, and I just layer those up until it's kind of amazing that you can tweak and create all your own brushes digitally to give this really awesome effect, like a painterly style. And it took a while to kind of figure out, but yeah, it's really exciting. I like it because you can make it and create it on the road, because we're on the road a lot, like 8 months out of the year. So it's very nice. Instead of slamming 2 weeks of work in a traditional painting, I can create anytime, anywhere, as long as I have a charge on my iPad.
In terms of going to these art shows, we know that you're coming into Ann Arbor from otherwise across the nation. You're going to different art shows all throughout the nation, all throughout the summer and throughout the year to present and to sell your art. What do you hope when people are going to these art fairs and as they're interacting with you, as they're patronizing your business and buying your art, what do you ultimately hope that they take away from your art?
Yeah.
Oh, for me, happiness. I mean, I know that sounds like really silly, but for me, having somebody come into the booth and have sort of like a very genuine reaction to it, laughing, giggling, shrieking sometimes. It's very gratifying to have people experience it. And then, if they're in a position to purchase something and take it home, it's great. Out of thousands of artists there, they chose me to make, the purchase for that day. So, it's special. And then people, of course, they collect over time. And, we have customers that, for us, we've had customers that have, passed on to even their children at this point, because we've been around a minute. So it's an awesome feeling.
You can see all their art and follow along with them for more information on alongthelines.art and learn more about them, as well as hundreds of other artists across so many disciplines that you'll see at this year's Ann Arbor Art Fair, July 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Jen, Kenny, thank you both so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.